the meeting of the Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee for March 23rd, 2026. First, would like to call attention to the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement, which is present on our agendas. With the remaining thing, our team here is small but mighty, but we don't have a full quorum, so we're going to do some things a little bit out of order. So we will skip on the approval of the agenda and the meeting minutes and move on to employee recognition. And I will turn it to Nick Thompson.
Chair, council members, thank you. As we have previously shared, and as you will hear more about later this week, Wednesday at council, we've undertaken some really significant maintenance work on the Blue Line that will ensure we can continue to provide reliable light rail service into the future. Behind the scenes, our teams at Metro Transit have worked tirelessly to ensure customers can still get where they need to go while this work is underway. As we look forward to start another construction season for the Blue Line, and as we embark along this renewed commitment to customer experience that you will hear about later in this meeting, we want to bring forward several employees whose work last fall helped us set the stage not just for what lies ahead this year, but who have helped set a new standard for customer service at Metro Transit. With that, I'll hand it over to Ben Razakowski, our Director of Customer Experience.
Come on up. All right, good afternoon, Chair and council members. I'm really excited to be here, and it's a privilege to recognize this fine team who led an effort last fall to really pilot how we use rider feedback to not only improve the experience kind of in ongoing operations, but build insights that we can use to better the experience for customers for future rail replacement work, which will happen this year and next year. This team led an effort to use the kind of September 22nd through October 4th Renew the Blue Phase 1 period to look at the feedback we get from customers and think about how we can use it directly to impact operations. Dr. Rachel Jones is a principal researcher in our Office of Performance. She really helped us with the strategy around research to think through what should be included in this pilot, helped us narrow down to 4 key customer feedback inputs: our Transit Information Center, customer relations, our ambassadors who are actually out at platforms, and then also our Rate My Ride feature through Transit app. So she helped develop the questions with Transit app, helped develop kind of relationships with stakeholders to understand what was needed, and helped pull those stakeholders together at the end of the pilot to learn lessons learned and apply them to future work. We have Denise Coral Irwin, who was a researcher with our Office of Performance, now works in our Community Affairs group. She really helped Yasna, our project manager, bring together all the stakeholders, helped get the Rate My Ride report out, and then also pulled together those stakeholders for the debrief and helped analyze and report out on the Rate My Ride feedback. We had Michael Kulshaw-Maurer, a senior data scientist in our customer experience team, who really has done a great job setting the vision for what we want to do with rider feedback. Really kind of visionary work that he's doing with data science work, helped set up the framework for the information we're taking in, the data categories, building a dashboard and reports out so that operations teams could use that information in the moment, and also helped develop those insights that we're looking to improve our next round of work this spring or summer with the insights that we learned from the shutdown. And then Yasna Hadzik-Stanek was our project manager and did such a fantastic job of taking this idea, building the scope, the timelines, and deliverables, wrangling a diverse group of stakeholders together, understanding their needs, and then running this pilot, going through feedback daily, making sense of that feedback, and then creating a final report, which again highlights those insights that we're learning from and applying to Renew the Blue Phase 2. So this is a fantastic, innovative work. I'm happy to recognize this team, and congratulations to your work, and look forward to seeing it into the future.
Thank you all.
Can you see over here? Great. All right. Michael? Thank you. Thanks for the work you do. Rachel. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. Customer service is everything, so thank you very much. All right, thanks. Really appreciate it. All right, well, our small but mighty crew is expanded, so we can go back in the agenda. So first is approval of the agenda. If there's no objections, we can proceed. Very good. Seeing none, look for if there's any changes or addition to the March 9th meeting minutes. Seeing none, I move by Councilmember Osman. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you all. And now we are on to reports. So I'm going to turn to MTS for Amy Venowitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. One item to report, and this is on behalf of our TAB liaison, Peter Dugan, who could not be here today. Hopefully he's listening, because this was a very exciting action and probably the one he really would have really liked to have shared with you this year. And that was that last week TAB took the action to recommend to the council that we adopt and release the 2026 regional solicitation. And you've heard a number of presentations on this over the past few years, but I was thinking about it this afternoon, and I think maybe all of you were there, but 2.5 years ago, you might remember we held a workshop to kick off the solicitation. It was over at the US Bank building, and we put you all at tables and went through the card process of having you tell us what your priorities were for the solicitation. I just remember that being an excellent workshop. And I think if you take the time before our next meeting, so this action will come before you on April 13th and then to the full council. But the solicitation, it's long, it's involved, but I would encourage you to read the opening of it, which really talks about the relationship to the 2050, Imagine 2050 and the 2050 TPP. And I think you'll be very happy to see that a lot of the council's priorities and values are very well reflected in the solicitation. We couldn't be happier with it. There was some controversy along the way that I think we got ironed out. It was almost a unanimous vote at TAB, not quite, but it's a really big piece of work that you'll be adopting 2.5 weeks from now. And then we won't be releasing it to the applicants until May 5th because we're still in the process of designing a new online software program. So if you hear from your locals or people that are thinking about applying, that's the date currently, and I think we're going to hit that May 5th. But you can also have any of your constituents give us a direct call if they have questions or thoughts about the solicitation. And one other thing I will add is one of the most controversial pieces of the solicitation I think you heard about was some of the points that had to do with community considerations. That did remain at 20% of the points, 15% for the safety. And we have a workshop on community considerations coming up next Monday. It's for applicants, scorers, community-based organizations. We currently had to cut off the registration because we had 75 people coming to that next Monday. It'll be held at the Wilder Foundation. So pretty excited about that event too. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments?
Just so glad to hear that you have so many people wanting to understand and respond to this area of work, which is, somewhat different than before. Mm-hmm. And it sounds as though you'll have to schedule the next session then, perhaps.
Yes.
Since you cut off that
Yes,
registration.
Madam Chair, I should add, we're doing an in-person workshop, and then we are also filming a webinar in April, and then the webinar will be available to all applicants online. The workshop is really, we're trying to separate it a little bit from the solicitation itself. It's really about how to work with community, how to make your work community-centered. And we're anticipating that we'll offer this workshop every year from here on out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. Any other comments, questions? I'm just going to add that getting to this point with the regional solicitation is a really big deal. And it was a lot of work, both people who served on work groups, the TPP, Regional Solicitation Work Group. Member Carter was one of our members, and all the staff. Like, there's so much time and effort that goes into that process. But to TAB itself, it's a very wide-ranging group of people around that table, and I think that we were able to disagree on some points without being disagreeable and come to something. And I think because there is a push and pull with different opinions around the table, we actually get a better result for the whole region. So very, very excited to get to this point. So yeah, make sure you thank all of the staff, very much so. All right, nothing else, we'll move to Metro Transit, and Nick Thompson here tonight.
Madam Chair, council committee members, thank you. 2 updates tonight. Metro Transit is preparing for a busy weekend with large crowds anticipated to rally at Saturday at State Capitol. So we will be running 3-car light rail trains, extra service there. The B line and Gold line are good routes for people to take to that. And then we have major local routes that serve downtown St. Paul or Rice Street. So we encourage people that are attending that to take transit as the best way to get there and back. And we will be prepared and ready for that. And speaking of Gold Line, I can't sit up here without recognizing that today is the 1-year anniversary of opening of the Gold Line. So the service is going very well, very on time. It's working great. Made it through a winter of owning our own roadway, and the plowing done by Washington County was great. Construction contracts are almost closed out. And our design of the Gold Line extension is just about completed to get under construction after July 1st. And so we hope to open the Gold Line extension to downtown Minneapolis next spring. So all going well there, and important time. It was a lot nicer day than it was an opening day for those who were at the ceremony. So, and that is our report from Metro Transit tonight.
Thank you. It is a much nicer day than opening day was. It was very cold. Everything, all the events for the Gold Line were cold. All right, any questions or comments? Oh, just very excited to hear that, and excited to hear the progress on the Gold Line extension. So, very good. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, we can move on to the items on consent. If there's no objections, I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, second by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. On to our first non-consent business item, which is the 2026-69, a joint powers agreement with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and Minnesota Fusion Center. And I believe that today we have Captain Raymond and Acting Lieutenant Mohammed here to present.
Good afternoon, Chair, council members. I'm here to go over business item 2026-69 for the Joint Powers Agreement with the Minnesota BCA, or Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and Minnesota Fusion Center, excuse me. So the proposed action is that the council authorize the regional administrator to execute this joint JPA with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Fusion Center. So the PD has previously partnered with other local agencies as it relates to different task force. And active participation in these task force provide a great value to the PD and Metro Transit and the council as a whole. The Fusion Center is a part of the investigation division for the BCA. They work with different law enforcement, first responder, government agencies, and the private sector to share information related to terrorism, regional criminal activity, any major incidents, to improve the ability to fight crime and terrorism locally, regionally, and nationally. The Fusion Center allows for local, state, tribal governments to gather, process, and analyze and share information and intelligence relating to all crimes and all hazards. So this JPA would allow the PD to request resources directly from the Fusion Center, therefore impacting the crime and disorder on the transit system. It allows for cooperation and placement of staff members within the BCA to meet with MTPD and our goals and address the action items in the Safety and Security Action Plan. This agreement would offer a career development opportunities for other PD personnel while allowing for them to serve for the greater transit community in a proactive and positive manner. Both are important to the continued success, and it meets the department's goals and enhances the council's success across the region. I think that's all.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, council members. I'm here clearly as a supportive role, so thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. Is this a new opportunity for us to participate in this, or has this been ongoing? If it's a new opportunity, great. Or just what was the, I know the rationale behind it, but was there something different if it's been in place before that?
To my knowledge, and Captain can correct me, I think this is the first opportunity for it, and it's different because it's strictly more of an information sharing and intel sharing, where some of the other task force have been like boots on the ground.
Yeah, Chair, council members. Yeah, I would just add that, so we work with, indirectly with the Fusion Center on information sharing, but this would allow us to actually assign an officer to that Fusion Center, work closely with and collaborate with the local law enforcement partners. So it's not, it would just be more of a direct role with them.
Okay.
That
And just to
helps.
clarify, so that opportunity might have been there before, but we're going to go a little bit deeper with that relationship?
Yeah, as staffing allows. So this would be when staffing allows, we would be able to assign somebody to work closer with the
All right,
assignment to that.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Councilmember Tyrone Carter?
I just want to be clear, so the person physically is going to be located for a period of time in the Fusion Center?
Yeah, Chair, council members. Yeah, they would work on, usually when they do a task force like this, they'll be going back and forth. So they will always be responsive to our immediate needs, but we'll work and sometimes work at the BCA and work collaboratively with them, but we'll always have a spot at the PD. So they'll kind of go back and forth.
All right, additional questions or comments? Seems like a great opportunity. So with that, the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute joint powers agreement JPA 21I001 with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for Minnesota Fusion Center access. That I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Osmann. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, on to our second business item, which is business item 2026-70, West Metro Transit Service contract. And we have John Harper. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. John Harper, Manager of Contracted Transit Service in MTS Division. Today I bring before you an item related to procuring the West Metro Transit Service contract. That is one of 4 regular route or fixed route contracts that we manage within the MTS division. This contract is focused on 30 and 35-foot bus size service in the western part of the metro, and is part of just an ongoing, as I say, 4 contracts that we have that really just go on in time as we replace them as they expire. So late last year, in December, we released the RFP, the request for proposals, and on January 20th, we received 2 proposals for the service. A team of 5, including MTS and including service development staff, Metro Transit Service Development, reviewed the proposals and are recommending to the committee that we offer the contract to TransDev as the best value for the council. Want to just point out 2 items that we've had ongoing conversations in this committee about competitiveness of our service, and we do continue to, in certain circumstances, struggle with competitiveness. So we are doing two things in this agreement that are new to MTS as we respond to recommendations and try to increase our competitiveness. There was a study that was focused on metromobility, but really applies to all the MTS work, that two of the recommendations from that recent study are incorporated into this contract, and that is we typically go out for a 5-year agreement. This agreement is 7 years, so we are extending it a little bit longer in hopes that, in the hope that we would have other contractors think about coming into the region, those who aren't here already. Clearly with two proposers that in this instance didn't bear fruit. We also adjusted our pricing approach. Instead of having fixed hourly rates at certain percentages of the 100% of the contract value. Instead, we went to a fixed plus variable approach. So every month there's a fixed amount, and then there's per hour a rate that the contractor is charging. So as I say, those are in response to a study that was done focusing on metromobility, but really we're incorporating that into all the work that we're doing. So this is the first time that those items have been tried out, and hopefully as we continue to use those two approaches, we'll see some fruit being borne through our procurements. So with that being said, I will bring to you the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorized the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P218 with Transdev Inc. for regular route transit in the West Metro Transit Service contract in an amount not to exceed $76,488,300. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this, I appreciate it. And then can you just help me understand what service is provided under West Metro Transit Service? What communities and what service areas are we talking about?
Sure. Madam Chair and Committee Member Johnson, for us, the way that we do with fixed route contracts, the contracts themselves essentially create buckets for us, and routes change within. At this time, the service that's within this contract is West Metro focused, hence the name of the agreement. In the service mix today, in the service plan today, include Route 30, which is a North Minneapolis route, includes Route 540 and 542, which operate along the 494 corridor in Edina, Bloomington area, and then Route 705, which is a route that goes from Brooklyn Park down to 394 and Louisiana. So it is work in the West Metro. That does change from time to time as we work with Metro Transit Service Development on what is the right mix of service to operate under contract versus what Metro Transit directly operates. But those 4 routes are in the contract today.
Okay, and Madam Chair, one quick follow-up.
Councilmember Johnson.
And then thank you. So it's called the West Metro Transit Service area, and do you have like North Metro, South Metro, East Metro? What is that? What does the area have to do with just transit service that we provide?
Madam Chair and committee member, the naming convention is somewhat nebulous, but at this point we have, as I say, we have 4 contracts in the fixed route mode or the regular route mode of service that we operate in MTS. We have one that is called St. Paul and Anoka County, which is focused on the East and North Metro, basically from the river around to 94 on the east. We have this West Metro contract, which operates, as I mentioned to you, sort of around, if you think of the clock from about 11 o'clock down to about 7 o'clock on the clock dial. We've got a service called BEAR, which is short for Bloomington, Edina, and Roseville. There isn't any Roseville, there is a little bit of Roseville left in that, but that's focused primarily in the southern tier, a lot of Bloomington service. On that, Mall of America to Southdale is kind of the roots of where that contract started. And our fourth contract then is all the work we do in cutaway style buses, the small buses. And so, 3 of the bigger bus contracts and 1 small bus contract is how we have divvied up our service today. As I mentioned, that changes from time to time as we move routes around between contracted and Metro Transit. But we try to focus on that geography.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Osman?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I might have missed it. What is the duration of this contract?
Madam Chair and committee member, this agreement is a 7-year agreement, which, as I mentioned earlier, is typically we had 5-year agreements. This is a 7-year agreement, so it's a little bit longer than we have done in the past.
Additional questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-70.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Osman, is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there is any objection, I would say the first item can go on the consent agenda and the second can go non-consent. Okay, good. All right, very good. We're on to information. Our first information item is something we heard a little bit about already. So customer experience, improving the end-to-end customer journey. And we have Ben I will get it, Rajkowski. I would do better if I spoke slower.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. I'm Ben, I say Rikuski, but happy, any way it's pronounced, it's fine, I'll answer to it. I'm the Director of Customer Experience, and I'll be providing an overview today of our new customer experience department and how we're improving kind of the end-to-end customer journey for our customers. It's really nice to have the alignment for the work that we recognize, because that is the type of work that's really the building block for helping us improve the customer experience at Metro Transit. My goal is to provide a little bit of introduction and background to how we got here, how we got a customer experience program at Metro Transit, provide a higher level view of what is customer experience and talk through kind of how that's being applied across the transit industry. And then we'll talk about what we're doing specifically this year to improve the customer experience and your role, and hopefully questions and discussion. We are kind of an a product or an outcome of the Organizing for Success effort that Metro Transit led forward in 2025. This was in reaction to a recognition that we have increased expectations from our riders. We know that our riders have changed over the years, and also the work that we do is more complex, it's more demanding, and so we really want to be structured in a way that we're adaptive, we're flexible, and that we can meet the moment and move on into the future. So there were 4 primary recommendations for the Organizing for Success initiative. One was around how we're structured, how departments are structured, making sure that the groupings make sense for enabling our strategy or strategic work. The second recommendation was around creating accountability in areas where either we didn't have direct accountability or it was spread across the agency. The third recommendation was around thinking about how we really enable cross-functional work, and this is something that you'll see highlighted in this presentation, because customer experience work is really cross-functional work. It takes work across the agency to be successful. And then the final recommendation was thinking about how we're structured to be a learning organization, how we take in feedback, learn, adapt, and grow. And so this led to direct sort of outcomes for the Administration and External Affairs division, of which we're a part. We formalized customer experience work. So we created a customer experience department out of what was the transit information department, which I had led formerly. And then we have a recommendation to set up an experience strategic priority team, which will work across the agency around priorities for customer experience. We are continuing to merge our contact centers. So our customer relations and transit information center are merging. That work is ongoing. And then we are setting up a rider insights team under customer experience. And there's a couple other organizational shifts within our department that we're working on. But really what this enables is us to not only better listen to our customers, define kind of clear outcomes and move that forward. We're providing additional customer support through longer hours and better tools. And then finally, we'll be able to visibly demonstrate the success of our work as we move forward. So really important things that this enables. And the wheel on the right is really kind of how we're approaching this work. An example was the recognition that we had earlier of how we are listening to our customers to set priorities, to develop actions, delivering those together and being able to measure and evaluate those, and then that wheel starts again. So we've got the customer experience program. A question you might have is, well, what do we mean by customer experience? You probably have ideas about it, and they're probably right. A lot of people would give you different definitions, but they probably all are somewhat similar. How we're thinking about customer experience work is really understanding that each of our customers go through a journey as they take transit. So that journey has stages from when they're thinking about planning a trip, when they're out at the bus stop, getting on the bus. Every stage that they're at, there's multiple touch points that the customer experiences that Metro Transit controls. And each of those touch points are our opportunity to gain trust, to show that the system's easy to use, to show that we're reliable. Each of those touch points are also how customers form their perception of their experience of Metro Transit. So really all customer experience is everything, but it's customers' perception of Metro Transit based on their experience with all those touch points over time. And so that's why, as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about this being cross-functional in nature, it truly is. Everybody's work at Metro Transit is represented in customer experience. And we are the customer experience department, so we are accountable for kind of helping that work move forward, but we really rely on improving how we work cross-functionally to be successful. And I do want to just call out a distinction that I think is important is, as I bring up customer experience work, sometimes I hear back, well, yeah, I get it, it's customer service. And I just want to stress that customer service is an important thing that we're focused on at Metro Transit, and it is one or a series of touch points along a customer's journey. So the customer experience makes up customer service or customer support, but it is sort of more than just customer service. And so I thought a case study would be helpful, a real-life case study. This was actually a real contact that came in via our Text for Safety system where a customer was reporting snow and ice at the Target Field Station. Currently, we are in a place where our systems aren't integrated, and I think you all know we've presented, we are working to improve that, but really the direction staff are given is that that customer needs to report that to either customer relations or fill out a web form, partly because the systems aren't integrated, so the system that Text for Safety uses isn't connected with our case management system. But what we've done here is really put the onus back on the customer who is trying to help us out, providing that information to say, can you take another step and do this? So we know that improving the customer service, which we're focused on, is to implement that integrated case management system that came before you earlier this year and has been approved. We're moving forward with that. That will really integrate with a number of enterprise systems. So we're really leveraging technology investments to improve the customer service in this case. When an issue comes in, we can tie it right to our work order system. And we can also communicate with the customer throughout that whole experience. So there's a transparent process. So that's great customer service. As we think about if we were in a more mature customer experience space, we would be thinking about developing insights over time about the feedback we've heard around ice and snow removal at, say, Target Field, that may have led to us either making budget decisions or developing pilot projects to innovate, to think about ways that we could mitigate this issue for an end result where the customer doesn't have to report that issue because we've already proactively created a solution. And so that's, kind of moving to that mature customer experience space is where we want to go. Of course, customer service is always important, and we're always going to be focusing on it. So this is being recognized across transit. About 5 years ago, there were just a handful of customer experience programs. We are now up to 74, and that's probably increased since I put these slides together. And that is in a recognition of really wanting to continue the work collaboratively to improve the customer experience. So while there's kind of different ways that agencies are approaching this work, there are core capabilities around customer experience. One is about how we listen and gain insights from our riders, how we develop a strategy around customer experience, how we measure our work and report back to say, did we do what we intended? And if not, how do we change and adapt? And how do we develop accountability for the work, customer experience accountability and customer-centric mindset, and then also how do we develop sort of repeatable processes that we can use in design and development that has the customer at the center of what we do and what we're trying to, or the outcomes we're trying to meet. So I've reached out to a host of peer agencies, and I just wanted to highlight two quickly. I had the pleasure of meeting the heads of both of these two customer experience teams when I was at the Marketing, Communications, and Customer Experience Workshop, the APTA workshop in February. As I talked to people, TransLink in Vancouver was seen as one of the most mature customer experience programs across transit, and they had their first customer experience action plan back in 2019. They have really done a really interesting work around thinking about both the digital and in-system side, so both that sort of digital experience, but also the wayfinding, signage, et cetera. And through their action plan, they've identified 5 priority or focus areas. You'll see across action plans, a lot of those focus areas are going to be similar across transit, which makes sense. But one thing that is really interesting is the way that they've evolved and the way that they're thinking about listening to customers, culminating in a voice of the customer program that they're setting up with their most recent customer experience action plan. Another example is a relatively new customer experience program, the Maryland Transit Agency. They just put out their first action plan. Instead of looking at a 5-year longer term roadmap like TransLink, they're doing an annual work plan, customer experience action plan. They have a different sort of setup, kind of a smaller customer experience team. But at the heart of this, as well as how they think about and talk to customers, they have positions designed to be, they're called rider talker positions, and they spend a majority of their shifts out in the system just talking, documenting, and using that feedback to drive decisions. So I highlight these two. They're kind of on both ends of like the spectrum from maturity, but they're both focusing things in a similar way. And I think some of the things that they've done are things that we want to emulate and advance at Metro Transit. So while we're kind of thinking towards the future and maturing our processes and getting to a point of developing an action plan, we're hard at work improving the customer experience this year. Our customer experience department, we have a work plan that is full of items that are really geared towards improving the customer experience. And as you lay it out over the customer journey, you can see that we have some projects at the bottom, that new CRM system, which you're aware of, which really touches all customer stages of the journey. However, we have other projects like our new trip planner, which will be improving how customers are able to plan trip and the information they receive. We have projects at the stop, improving wayfinding, our real-time signs, and our push-button enunciators. We're scoping out a pilot on vehicles for both BRT and rail to pilot digital screens on board vehicles. As customers are making transfers, we're improving the data sets that we use through our trip planner and other tools, as well as wayfinding, and then making on-demand service discoverable in our trip planner will help with that last mile. So this is an interesting exercise that as we kind of layer this upon transit, we can see that we're really doing a lot of work just within our department, but across transit to advance and improve the customer experience, even while we're maturing our program. And then some of the core work that we're really focused on, I had mentioned earlier, we're merging our contact centers. We're really thinking about the kind of building the foundations within the customer experience department of the people, processes, and technology. So as we merge our contact centers, it's an opportunity for us to increase skill sets and information and be able to provide better information to our customers. As we develop our processes, we can really make sure that our customer experience team is positioned across the agency to provide information and assist. And then we're implementing those new technologies through the CRM, new trip planner, et cetera, that are really bolstering our ability within our department to improve the customer experience. And at the heart of all this, as mentioned in our recognition to start the meeting today, is really how we listen to customers. It's really essential. We listen to understand, we derive our priorities based on that understanding, and then we develop actions and we measure those and repeat that process. So setting up the Rider Insights team within customer experience is going to be a way that we can showcase that. So as I close out, just as we think about sort of everyone's role in customer experience, you obviously hear a lot from customers and constituents, so we have standard ways of reporting issues and just want to make sure you're aware of those, that you can pass them on to customers at any point. We have processes in place to take in customer contacts, whether they call us or customer relations or fill out a web form. We'll be able to take that information in and process that. We try to handle most issues as we can with the first call, and the majority of calls are handled at the first call, but also then we have processes in place to carry that through investigation and resolution. And then, of course, if somebody contacts you directly, you can direct them to those sources. You can lean on your community relations liaisons, consultants to support you. If you have questions, they can help get you connected with the right people within Metro Transit and Community Affairs to assist. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Councilmember Carter.
I just say I really like this program, and I like the idea of the research and contact with the peers to draw on that and improve the program, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Councilmember Tony Carter.
Thank you, and I would simply add that I really appreciate the customer experience lens across so many areas of impact or, areas where customers are experiencing Metro Transit and the feedback that can now happen as we build the structure out and the communication out that will then go back into improving that customer experience. It all seems so logical.
Yep.
But it doesn't always happen that way. So thank you for helping us as we report and as we help people to share with Metro Council what has in fact, or to share with Metro Transit what has occurred so that we can know about what resolve happened and apply those resolves in a variety of different areas, of impacting not only that direct customer experience, but how we communicate internally, how we improve policy and make changes operationally that will result in a better customer experience. So thank you for the leadership. We look forward to hearing so much more. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? I have just a couple. I think this is wonderful. I think that, we obviously one of our goals is to get as many transit riders out on the system as possible and have them using it frequently and often. And so much of that is tied to this customer experience. It's how do you feel? And we talk, obviously there's a lot of conversations about safety and security, but there's so many other touch points. And I think that you're integrating that and building it into this feedback loop is just gonna be such a great thing for us at Metro Transit. You probably heard me talk about, I see transit as a community. And so when you have ways to connect that community in different ways, it just makes us stronger, and I really appreciate it. I will also say that I love the technology improvement piece of having a single source for things. And what I liked in the slide, it says a single source of truth. And I think that is really, really important because you can come in contact with the transit system so many different ways, and sometimes you don't know where to go. And having that one place to go will make it so much more accessible and approachable for our riders. So just really, really appreciate it. All right, and final call, then I will say thank you, Mr. Kuski.
Thank you, appreciate it, thanks.
Very good. All right, on to our last information item. It's a Metro H-Line Draft Quarter Plan, and we have Jake Knight here to present.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Jake Knight. I'm a principal planner in arterial BRT at Metro Transit. I'm here today to share information about the Metro H-Line, specifically our draft corridor plan and release beginning of our public engagement process to identify station locations for the H-Line. As you know, the H-Line will be our region's 8th arterial BRT line in the Metro network. The H-Line will travel from downtown Minneapolis to Sunray Transit Center on St. Paul's east side. This is an exciting route for a few reasons. It introduces new crosstown service where there is none on Maryland Avenue between Rice Street and Payne. And it's also a really important network route. It connects to most of the existing and planned Metro lines, including the Gold Line, Bronze Line, G, A, E, Green, and several others. As an arterial bus rapid transit line, the H-Line will provide fast, frequent, and all-day service. The 17-mile line will primarily operate on Washington, Como, Maryland, and White Bear Avenues in both Minneapolis and St. Paul. Right now, in our draft corridor plan, we have 45 proposed stations. 3 of those are planned to be shared with the Bronze Line on Maryland Avenue on the east side. The H-Line will be a planned upgrade and replace the existing Route 3, which is consistently among the highest ridership bus routes in our region. This is an overall view of the H-Line project schedule. So the H-Line alignment was identified in March of 2021 adopted by the council at that point. Over the last couple of years, we've been working with our external and internal partners to develop the plan for stations to this point. And today is an exciting day where we're starting our planning phase. So we'll be releasing our draft corridor plan today, initiating our first public comment period. As we've done in the past for several other arterial BRT lines, this is the first of 3 versions of our corridor plan. We'll come back, gather feedback, and come back with a recommended corridor plan based on the input we hear from community, have a second public comment period, and then go into our final corridor plan, which will seek council adoption anticipated in the fall of this year. And looking at construction starting in 2028. There are several coordinated projects, major projects happening in the corridor at the same time. And our partnership with our agency partners is going to be really critical to the success of the H-Line. We are coordinating both planning and engagement to make sure that we're getting feedback from as many folks as possible, but also making sure we're in alignment and working closely. Shown on the screen are just a few of the many coordinated projects in the corridor. I'll highlight the Metro Bronze Line, the Metro Blue Line extension at Washington 10th Avenue North. And we also have coordinated projects from the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Ramsey, and Hennepin County. So during this planning phase, our focus is really on station locations. It's at this time where we identify, evaluate, and finalize our platform and station locations based on engagement and input from riders and the public. This is a really critical point in the H-Line project, and we want to make sure we're getting as much feedback and reflecting on the project at this early phase. The corridor plan is our document and process for collecting that feedback and proposing the station locations. And as I mentioned, during this phase, a lot of coordination with our agency partners. I've mentioned the cities and counties involved, but also note MnDOT, the University of Minnesota, and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board have been very involved to this point. So in terms of what the corridor plan actually contains, again, it's really focused on those station locations. You could think of that as perhaps the intersection where two platforms might be. Once we have identified that station intersection, we're looking at platforms where you can board the bus and looking, say, at different corners of an intersection. The corridor plan will include station concepts, one for each of the 45 proposed stations. Shown on the right, image on the right on the screen is an example of that for a proposed station at Washington and Chicago in downtown Minneapolis. This shares, the essential information about the station concept and puts that in context with the remainder, with the rest of the street. Critically, these are concepts at this point. There is a lot of work yet to do in the engineering and design phase to put a lot more detail to these concepts. So today marks the beginning of our 6-week public comment period, running through May 4. It's during this time we're going to be using a survey to collect most of, as our primary tool of collecting feedback. We're going to engage folks in a number of different ways, which I'll talk about in a minute, but trying to drive folks to provide feedback via that survey, available both online and in person. I'll note that we have pushed back this public comment period by about a month in response to the recent and ongoing federal activity in our region and in our communities. And we've also shifted some strategies in response to that to try to be sensitive to just where folks are at and what's happening in community. We have also, preceding this public comment period, done a lot of pre-work to try to make sure folks are aware that this is coming. Our community outreach coordinators have been great, being in community, in public spaces, attending events, partnering with neighborhood organizations to make sure that they know that this is coming and seeking their input on how can we best engage your community. Also note we've done a good amount of in-reach with Metro Transit operators thus far and intend to do that throughout the remainder of the project. I will note in terms of neighborhood organizations, we have received some feedback from some residents and neighborhood organizations to date. We are committed to including that in our documentation of what we hear during this public comment period. And we'll be responding to the feedback that we receive in our next iteration of the plan and the recommended corridor plan. Here are those strategies. I won't read them all. They're focused really on, there's mailers, there's in-person engagement, online engagement, partnering with other organizations on their events, really trying to meet folks where they're at and focus on making sure that our engagement is accessible and equitable. As part of that, we're translating many of our documents and the languages spoken throughout this diverse and great corridor. So in terms of next steps, so today is, again, our first public comment period. We have a second one planned for August. And what's shown on the screen is kind of our process through the planning phase. And this is consistent with how we've treated other arterial BRT lines over the last several years. So we're going to be collecting feedback through May 4. We'll incorporate that into a revised recommended corridor plan, and also critically report back on what we heard and document that. We'll then have a second public comment period and incorporate any additional revisions into a final corridor plan, which will seek adoption from the council, anticipated at the end of this year. And with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Tony Carter.
Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Jake. I appreciate this presentation, information about where we are on H-line and what's coming up. It is very, very clear in terms of the planning that is happening right now. I first want to just thank you also very much to all of the team for what has been a real attention to outreaching in the community and listening. I know that we are hearing early, and that is really good because we paid really good attention to being out there with the community and being responsive to their requests for additional information and for just having conversations about what is coming up. The question I have is about the general planning that has happened, which has been long-term and engaged already and comprehensive. And with these arterial BRT projects, forgive me, I got something in my throat, but it'll go away. With these BRT projects, alignment is not typically a big part of the conversation. You know, we're at a phase where we're looking, as the plan does show in this planning process, at station locations. It is not assumed, because we're enhancing what used to be a bus line and pulling it through, it is not assumed that that alignment question, you know, is here. And yet some of the feedback we're hearing is about what we imagine for BRT and real service into a community of need and what this may look like. And hearing some good feedback about that. So we're showing that we really do want the feedback, although it may be a little strange in terms of what our typical BRT plan looks like, to hear some of the feedback we're getting, but that we're taking it seriously. We're reviewing the information, evaluating the information, and wanting to be as responsive as we can be as we look at what our plan is, what maybe we are hearing, and as we enter this important phase of community engagement, what we'll continue to hear from an even broader set of community. So I want to first thank you and all our staff who are involved in responding right now to community. And then I do want to ask the question, as we are in a BRT planning process, and we are hearing of issues that may not match the phase that we're at, what our thoughts are about how we do continue to be responsive and how we intend to intake the information, assess it, listen to the community as we're engaging, and then feed that back. Are we in a place where we can say this is unusual, but will be assessed within the total context, even though this is BRT and not a brand new corridor where we're planning alignment? You know, we're really planning stations, but we may be hearing some different things. Can you make some sense of that for me at this point?
Madam Chair, Councilmember, thank you for those comments and questions. I also want to highlight the good work that others who aren't present have done to date, especially on that outreach and engagement side of things. So the H-line alignment, as I said earlier, was adopted by the council in March of 2021. And typically during this planning phase for arterial BRT, when we're replacing an existing service, in this case, primarily the Route 3, we aren't typically addressing that alignment question because we've been given direction by the council that this is the alignment that we should be working with. We do, however, often, as part of the planning process in this phase, get questions about alignment. And I think it's critical that for our team that we're going to be documenting that, but also doing detailed analysis on some of the more detailed proposals that we might receive about changes in the corridor. So I think and we've had this conversation with some neighbors, and I think our commitment is really to conduct that technical analysis, view any major proposed changes through the lens of, our goals within our program, but also as the council, and think about, I think taking an open approach towards, being willing to listen and engage with some of those ideas that maybe we didn't put on paper in the first place. Hopefully
I
that
think that's
helped.
probably the best you can do at this point. And thank you very much for considering the question. I know that as we hear feedback, we want to be certain and genuine about wanting the feedback, and where information may be presented that makes us step back a little bit, to do that step back in the analysis fairly, so that we do come out with the very best project possible. And that is what I'm hearing from you. I appreciate hearing more beyond this point as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyrone Carter.
Yeah, I had a question. Your starting date is going to be 2028. What's the projected completion date at this point?
Madam Chair, Councilmember, we are currently assuming a 2-year construction period, 28 and 2029. And so that would have us, our initial target is for the service to begin in late 2029.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions, comments? Councilmember Rosson?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to know that based on the draft that we have this corridor, so the feedback that we're getting from public, it might change this corridor, right?
Madam Chair, Councilmember, certainly. We want to hear, so we've put forth a proposal for folks to interrogate and think about, respond to. And the feedback that we get will certainly direct any potential changes that we might see driven by that feedback and reflected in the corridor plan. It's very common that we receive input that maybe we hadn't thought of, or that we need to think about a little bit more carefully, and reflect a change based on that in a different iteration of our plan. And as I said, this is a first of 3. So we're hoping that, through our engagement process, we're able to understand that and reflect that.
Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I have a couple. So first, I want to thank you and the outreach team for making adjustments to some of the timing and how we might engage with the communities, just knowing what we've gone through the last few months. I think that is really important because we do want that feedback. Like, we do want to hear from everybody, so really appreciate the thoughtful approach to that. I think that's quite critical. Just want to note also that we're talking about the H line, so this is very cool. When I first started, I was on the A line, so I'm gonna keep saying this until I'm done here at council, because I think it's just fantastic. And this one, what strikes me with this one too, it almost harkens back to when we were working on the B line, of all the different connecting points. That's the key of the transit system, is to help you get connected to as many destinations as possible, and when these routes all start connecting with each other, that's how we do it. So more just a yay than anything else. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna giggle every time because it makes me happy. So, and Kyle's smiling because he knows it does too. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. All right. If there's nothing else, then we can be adjourned.